And joining us now to break this all down is Mariam Wahba, analyst at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. What more do we know about this latest proposal that's being discussed right now?
Good to be with you this evening, Bianca. There's a couple of things to understand about the Egyptian proposed ceasefire agreement. The first element, of course, as you correctly noted, is the hostage release. So we're seeing that this proposal aims to get 5 hostages released on day 1 and another 5 every 7 to 10 days. From an American's perspective, what's important to remember about this hostage release format is the Israeli-American dual citizen Idan Alexander will be released on day 1, and that's been a priority for the American hostage negotiation team. There's 2 sticking points that will become a point of contention as the Egyptians, Qataris, Israelis, and Hamas look to finalize the details of this agreement. And the first of those is the corridors, Netzarim and Philadelphia. Of course, as we know, the IDF has re-entered and retaken Netzarim corridor, and that is obviously restricted some of Hamas's access to some parts of the Strip and will become a sticking point. The second element here that will become a point of contention is this phase 2 that was a point of contention in the first round of the ceasefire that just came to an end a couple of weeks ago. Phase 2 demands by both the Egyptians and Hamas see that the IDF withdraw fully from the Gaza Strip, and that is, of course, as we understand, a non-starter for Israel.
All right, and I want to ask you now about Egypt's role in all of this as a mediator, as a negotiator. When Egypt presented its counterproposal to Trump's plan about the future of Gaza, Hamas was barely mentioned, and the proposal was really not taken seriously by the U.S. or by Israel. Why would an Egyptian proposal for ceasefire be different? Why would it be received differently?
Look, ceasefire agreements and day after plans are different beasts, different animals, so to speak.
Right.
For the Egyptian plan that was proposed, it was kind of deemed dead on arrival because it failed to address the 2 main points for both the Israelis and the Americans, which is both demilitarization, taking away the arms of Hamas so they are no longer a functioning military group, and 2, governance, who is to oversee the Strip after Hamas is no longer in power. And the Egyptian plan failed to address those 2 very vital points, which is why it was considered dead on arrival. For a ceasefire agreement, the situation's a little bit different. Obviously, Egypt has a track record of facilitating, helping mediate successful, in smaller terms, successful ceasefire agreements. So there is a little bit of that track record. And 2, all a ceasefire has to do is deliver some wins for the Israelis and the Americans with some concessions on Hamas's end. And again, those two big concessions that the Americans and the Israelis are looking to get is, of course, release of the hostages, and 2, making sure that the IDF can stay in the Strip to continue fighting Hamas.
Right. So if we look at, you're talking about 2 big concessions, but looking at Israel's position overall on the future of Hamas in Gaza, on the hostages right now, on demilitarization, how likely is it that a ceasefire can be negotiated anytime soon?
Ceasefires are, of course, as we're learning, a very finicky thing, and they fall apart much faster than they come together. What the Egyptians are trying to do is just get to a closer point where Hamas is seeing those concessions and coming to the table. There's a little bit of a difference with how Egypt is conducting these negotiations as opposed to just a couple of weeks ago. What's the pressure that is being applied on Hamas right now? It's coming at them from 3 different angles. Obviously, the IDF is back in the Gaza Strip and taking out the decision makers, the top leadership of Hamas. And that is not to be discounted. That is going to take a lot of the firepower out of Hamas's internal decision-making processes. 2, there are rumors that Egypt, for the first time that I'm aware of, is applying pressure on Hamas to see a ceasefire to completion. And 3, we are entering now day 3 of protests, anti-Hamas protests in the Gaza Strip. And I think that also must not be discounted.
All right, Mariam Wahba, thank you very much for your input and analysis.